Hello garden gals and guys, it's Steph with Tiny's Garden, and today I am out here rushing to get some tulips into these raised beds. The one I'm on and the one directly behind it is where I'm putting a lot of what I'm calling specialty tulips. Tulips with fringe or special colors, things that I am potentially going to try and sell in the spring. So I've got all my landscape tulips done. That was the last video. In this video, I'll be showing you how I'm planting them in my raised beds, which is much different than in the landscape. For me, it's a lot easier in raised beds because the soil was brought in last spring, and fortunately, we've had a 55-degree day today, so it's not frozen, it's easy to work with. I'll add some compost to it and that'll be that. I'll take you through all of it. But this should be relatively quick. I am fighting daylight because it's daylight savings time. It gets dark here about 5 o'clock here in Zone 5B in the Chicago suburbs, and it's 4 o'clock. So let's go through, let me show you what supplies I'm using, and then we will get after it. Arguably, the most important thing I'm adding is compost to my soil, which already has compost in it, but I want to bring in some fresh soil because, as we know, or maybe you don't know, but now you will, soil is one of the most important things to grow healthy, beautiful crops. So I will be adding in what's called Cottonburr compost that I get at my local garden center. That's going in first. And then I'm going to put my tulips in on the top layer of that and follow with organic land and seed compost from Espoma. We had a sale at our local nursery, so I went ahead and stocked up, knowing I was doing this project and knowing I would also use it in the spring. So I am set here. The last bag I have is just a local nursery's compost, their own brand. I will use it if I need extra. Next supply. Okay, I've got some copper plated name tags for when I actually go to label which tulips are which, because I want to know that when I'm harvesting, etc. So I can keep track of which ones I really love, which ones maybe I won't do again. But I kind of splurged and got the copper plated because I think it looks really nice and my house has a lot of copper accents. So I have these to put in to know where my tulips are. A garden marker is what I will use to label these tags because this won't come off with rain or storms. It'll stay on. Definitely worth using a garden marker over your average Sharpie. Take it from me, learning from the past. Then we have bulb tone fertilizer. I will sprinkle this in my bed before I actually put the tulips in there. If you don't have this, you could always use Biotone starter fertilizer. That would work just as well. But I do try and use the bulb tone when I can because it's specifically formulated for bulbs. And last but not least, tulips, tulips, tulips. I have not counted how many I am putting in these beds, but I think it's close to 1,000. So we are just going to rock and roll right along here. Let's get started with putting our compost in the beds. And for your reference, just so you know the dimensions of my beds, because I'll tell you how many bags of compost I'm using, these beds are both 4 by 7.5, and that's in feet. So 4 feet by 7.5 feet. Alrighty, compost first. Hold up. One thing I need to do before I put the compost in is actually lift up the irrigation. I do have irrigation that runs to all of these beds, so I need to lift that up so the compost isn't covering that. So we will do that before we put our compost in. Mine's just tucked in here with some landscape staples, so I'm just going through and pulling those landscape staples out and bringing the irrigation line back out of the bed. I'm clearing any name tag sticks that I have in here. Really, they're wood, so they would deteriorate over time, but I'm just doing a quick clear through and I'll pitch that pile. I'm gonna start with 2 bags of compost. These bags are 2 cubic feet. So 4 cubic feet is what I'm putting down on top of this layer here that I already had from last spring and summer. And then we'll assess and see if I think I need more on the bottom or if I can go ahead and plant my tulips. Let her fly. There's a few frozen clumps of dirt or compost, but not too many. I'm not gonna worry about getting every single one because the ones that are left are pretty small. But that's one reason to maybe do this sooner than November. I think it's the 21st today. So I'm pushing it on time, but this will be just fine. We're all spread out here. And now I get to start to put them in. Because I'm doing them in raised beds, I will be placing them like eggs in a carton. Okay, so the first one I'm going to start with is Beauty of Spring, and these are from Color Blends. The majority of these are from Color Blends. I also have some that are from the Flower Hat. So on these bags, there's a bunch of information. There is the color, the bloom time, early, mid, or late spring. There's the height. There's 4 inches apart, 5 inches deep. So you know what you need to do with your bulbs as far as how far to plant them, etc. The thing I'm not really going to pay attention is to the planting space. I know I'm going to go in here really tight because I'm pulling these for bouquets. I'm not going to let them bloom. They're going to come to a tulip head, and right before they burst open is when I will harvest them. So I'm going to come in pretty close, packing them in like eggs in a carton. Let's make our tag, and then we'll get to work. Ay vey. Wow, really beautiful, right? Not so much. I can see what it is. That's what matters. So I'm simply going to dump all of the bulbs out. I'm going to stay on this right side of my tag and start planting them in really close. If this coating comes off, this really paper light coating, that's not a big deal. It's fine. You can plant them with. You don't have to take time to take that off. I'm also going to be planting root side down. So this side right here is facing down. Pointy side, you can see how that points there. Pointy side is facing up. I'm leaving, I would say, an inch between each one horizontally and vertically. I technically could go even closer, but I've got a lot of space for what I'm planting, I think, so I'm just doing about an inch. This is my first year with these raised beds and packing them in like this, so it'll be kind of an experimental year, but also very exciting because I've heard it is a very successful method. Oh my goodness, I forgot the fertilizer. Hold the phone, sprinkling some bulb tone fertilizer in there. So here we are, the first one is in Beauty of Spring. These are left over from the front, so there's not as many. I did about 2 or 3 inches from the side of the raised bed on the front and the back because of shadows. I want them to get as much sun as possible. So now I will start with another variety up here. So I'll add my fertilizer first, my bulb tone, and then we'll get a name tag in there with the new variety name and plant them the same way. The next one I'm going to do is Texas Flame, and these are from Tulip World. This is what their packaging looks like. Also has very similar info on the packaging. I will write my name tag here. And then this will probably be the last one that I can get in before I lose light. Fertilizer first. And I've got 50 of these to put in, so I'm going to pack these in a little tighter. Still dealing with a little bit of sunlight left, so I'm going to try and finish this bed, set the camera up, and keep going with it. The next 2 varieties we have are Rococo and Orca. they're big old bulbs. Looks like the last one I'll be able to fit in is Estella Ridgeveld. I do not know how to say that name. I'll put it on the screen. Okay, I did it. They're all packed in there. Pretty much like little eggs in a carton. I left a little space, maybe an inch. I really packed them in down here because I was running out of space. But there they are. I will tally these up and let you know how many are in this box. But right now I'm going to get the compost on there because I'm fighting the light and I want you to see how I spread that out on top. Okay, as I said, I'm going with Espelma Land and Sea compost. And we'll spread it out right on top to where there's about a 4-inch layer, maybe a little more. We'll see once we get an ending, but I'm shooting for at least 4 inches of compost on top. And if we go dark here and you can't see me, we'll pick up tomorrow. Sorry, I was racing as fast as I could with the light. Okay, I am back inside the same night, and I have some takeaways from planting tulips in my raised beds from day one. Number one, do it earlier than 4 o'clock p.m. It got dark at, I would say, like 4:45, 5. By the time I got inside and had cleaned up outside, it was 5:04, and I said I started at 4, so that's an hour and 4 minutes it took me to do that, and man, did that darkness come on quick. So do that earlier than the PM. That's just how the day went. I didn't get to it in time until then, but at least they're in the ground right now. Number 2, do it earlier next year. Today, I think I said is the 21st. I'm really bad with dates. Let me double check. 22nd, I wasn't too far off. Today's the 22nd of November. I really need to be doing this at the latest, probably beginning of November. We had really great weather in the beginning of November, and I made sure I got my landscape tulips in because that ground is really hard. There's no way I could have ogged into that today. So I'm glad I kept these for last, and I did that on purpose, but it still needs to be done a little earlier because my compost has more chunks of ice in it than I thought, and that is problematic. I will show you tomorrow in the daylight, but there's a decent amount of chunks that I couldn't get to crumble apart very well, and that's a lot of soil that's in a ball instead of laid out protecting my tulip bulbs. So I need to do that a little earlier next year than November 22nd for sure. 3, I think that I can pack more in. In that 7.5 by 4 foot bed, I calculated it, and if my quantities are correct of each variety, and there were 5 varieties, I put 250 in that raised bed. Now, as I said, I did do about an inch apart width and height, but I think I can go like half an inch or right next to each other because I can fit more than 250 in that raised bed. I'm pretty confident on that. So for tomorrow, which will be day 2, I'm gonna try and pack them in a little tighter and see how that goes. I think it should be fine. I'm going to do it earlier in the day because I was really racing out there, trying to get as much on camera as I could before it got dark, and it got chilly really fast too. So lessons learned. I will catch up with you tomorrow, day 2 of planting these tulips in the raised bed and taking what I learned today into tomorrow. We'll see you then. Hello, it's the next day and I have gotten to work already. I wanted to let you know that I did add 2 more bags of compost onto that first bed that I planted those tulips in. I just felt like there wasn't enough protection, and now I feel pretty confident they've got enough protection. I think there's about a 4-inch layer there of mulch or compost above where I planted the tulips. The bed is much more full, so it's good to go. And I also put repels all on there to keep squirrels and critters away from those bulbs so they're protected over the winter. And I also replaced the irrigation system and put that back in place. So it is set to go. Now I just need to do this bed with my remaining tulips that I have left, and I have 355 left. I miscounted in the bed over there. I double checked it. I put 300 in over there, so I've got to space them a little closer together, and I think through the middle of the bed I can put some more in. I left a little bit of space, and that's just unused real estate, so I'll just cover the middle up and we'll get all 355 in here. The one thing I'm doing different in this bed is that there's anemones in here, and so I'm just gonna cut back this green foliage that's here and leave those corms in there, and we'll see if they come up again in the spring. It's only on this side of the bed. It's not really gonna take up much space. I'm actually gonna plant the tulips right in with them, and we'll see what happens in the spring. Now that that's cut back, I'm gonna do the same thing I did with this bed with the other bed. So that's 2 bags or 4 cubic feet of the cotton burr compost, then put my tulips in, then cover them up with the land and sea compost with 6 bags of that or 6 cubic feet. And I'm gonna give you all the variety names right now because I'm gonna go very fast and then meet you here at the end. So in this bed we have La Belle Epoque from the Flower Hat. My first year growing these, very excited to see what they're like. Amazing Parrot, Sensual Touch, and more Estella Regneveld. Those are all from the Flower Hat. Then from Tulip World, we have Crystal Star, which I actually didn't order. It was supposed to be Crystal Beauty, so they sent me Crystal Beauty as well. Queen of the Night, and the Crystal Beauty. And then from Color Blends, Velvet Underground. All right, I'm gonna get these in and meet you here right before I cover them up with more compost. Okay, I have done it. They are all tucked in there, and I even have some room to spare on the end here. So really, I think in these 7.5 by 4 foot beds, you could fit about 455, 500. Really smushing them in there, no problem. So that's good to know. There's 355 right there. One thing I wanted to mention, any rotten bulbs that would look like this, they basically would fall apart in your hand or crumble like this. That's not gonna grow. That's bad. So I've got a few there. I don't even mess with putting them in the ground. But I am happy that is done. Let's finish it with the top layer of compost, Repulsol, and getting my irrigation back in place, and I'll meet you back here. And here we are. Both beds are officially done. 655 tulips back here. Very happy that task is over. Landscape ones are done too. Over 1,000 total this year. Happy to be done. That's a wrap, everybody. Thanks for coming on that ride with me. I've learned a lot this year from doing that. If it's your first year, definitely experiment, but hopefully this was a little helpful to see me go through the process. If so, please hit the thumbs up like button, and if you haven't yet, please subscribe to my channel to follow along with all things garden. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you in the next one. Happy planting. Bye.